Before we begin, take a moment to breathe. If these reflections speak to something silent inside you, subscribe so you don't lose the path back here. Every like, every comment helps this message find those who are still searching in the dark. Now, let's begin. There are 8 indications that you might not truly belong to this world. Carl Jung found that individuals marked by these traits perceive existence in ways that most people cannot begin to grasp. You notice hidden patterns others walk right past. Social interactions drain your energy instead of reviving it. Authority figures ignite a quiet defiance deep in your being that you can't explain. And perhaps most unsettling, conventional success feels hollow and meaningless no matter what you achieve. Imagine the scene. A crowded room filled with voices, laughter, and movement. Everyone seems connected, yet you feel detached, not lonely but apart, observing through different eyes. You watch the rituals, the jokes, the constant performance of belonging and wonder. How did I end up among them? Jung understood this intimately. He once wrote, "The individual must always fight not to be submerged by the tribe." But he also realized that this disconnection is not a flaw. It's an evolutionary stage. What I call the outsider awareness isn't something broken. It's a distinct way of processing reality that fulfills a vital function in human progress. Here's the revelation that changes everything. The feeling of not belonging isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that you possess what Jung named psychological differentiation. The ability to pull your consciousness away from the gravitational pull of collective thought. Most people live inside what could be called the hive mind, repeating the same thoughts, trusting the same ideas, seeking safety and sameness. Jung warned that the individual is increasingly robbed of moral decision and inner authority. But some souls cannot survive that way. They endure what he described as the tension of opposites. Simultaneously human and yet psychologically separate from humanity's collective trance. They become witnesses to human behavior rather than participants, anthropologists of their own species. And this, Jung found, is not rebellion but evolution in progress. Such people act as what I call scouts of consciousness, exploring unseen mental landscapes that others will only reach generations later. He recognized repeating patterns among these beings, what I call the 8 markers of a differentiated mind. If these traits sound familiar, you are witnessing the birth of genuine individuality. The first sign, pattern recognition overdrive. Jung noticed that differentiated individuals instinctively perceive the invisible architecture behind events, systems, motives, and structures hidden to ordinary sight. He said, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." You've likely experienced this, noticing when words and energy don't align, when social systems preserve dysfunction by design, or when mass beliefs serve only to keep people asleep. This isn't paranoia. It's what Jung called enhanced perception, the ability to see beyond the illusions of consensus. Yet this gift brings isolation. When you reveal what you see, others often react with disbelief or hostility. They can't see the patterns, so they assume you're imagining them. Jung understood this friction. Everything that irritates us about others can lead to understanding ourselves. Your vision makes others uneasy because it exposes what they've never dared to question. You become the uncomfortable mirror, reflecting truths others would rather remain unseen. Jung's studies in psychological types revealed that while most people gain strength from social stimulation, the differentiated gain it from solitude. This is more than introversion. It's what he called psychological introversion, the need to process reality within before returning to the external world. He wrote, "Solitude is for me a fountain of healing that makes life worth living. In solitude, you aren't lonely, you're whole. You think without interference, feel without performance, and reconnect with what Jung called the transcendent function. the inner mechanism that unites the conscious and the unconscious. If you've ever felt more alive alone than surrounded by people, you understand this truth. Solitude restores your essence. Society misunderstands this. You've likely been told you're antisocial or missing out on life. But Jung argued the opposite, that solitude is vital for psychological balance. Without it, you absorb the psychic noise of the collective. He warned of psychic contamination, when unprocessed emotions from others invade your mind. Differentiated souls also share what I call authority resistance. Not rebellion, but instinct. It's an inner knowing that senses when power lacks wisdom. Jung wrote that each individual must struggle not to drown beneath the group, and this struggle often manifests as conflict with bosses, systems, or traditions that demand obedience without integrity. You're not defiant. You're discerning. Your psyche recognizes false power immediately, guided by what Jung described as the archetype of the wise ruler, an innate compass for moral authority. When you face authority divorced from ethics, your entire being says no. Here's the paradox. The more awake you become, the less satisfaction you find in what society calls success. Jung saw that differentiated people are driven not by ambition, but by individuation, the urge to become fully themselves. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege often demands rejecting everything the collective celebrates. You may have collected achievements that others envy, good jobs, recognition, money, yet feel hollow inside. This emptiness is not failure. It's your psyche insisting that surface victories can't nourish the deeper self." Jung named this the price of adaptation. Success achieved at the expense of authenticity. Differentiated souls are motivated by meaning, not metrics. They would rather struggle while truthful than prosper while asleep. It isn't idealism, it's necessity. You possess what I call a meaning detection system, a built-in compass that tells you instantly when you're aligned with your purpose or lost in performance. This creates the Jungian success paradox. The more you accomplish by society's standards, the more estranged you feel from yourself. That inner emptiness pushes you back toward purpose. Jung saw this as evolution in disguise, your spirit refusing to settle for imitation life. Jung observed that individuals of this rare type often carry what could be called emotional telepathy. You unconsciously sense the emotional weather of every space you enter. Without effort, you absorb moods, motives, and the unspoken pain of others. Jung described this state as participation mystique, a blending of boundaries between self and other that happens automatically. While most people occasionally pick up on others' emotions, you live with this permeability every day. You enter a room and immediately feel tension, dishonesty, or grief. You know when someone lies, not by their words, but by the frequency of their energy. You experience the pain of others as if it were your own. Jung understood this sensitivity as advanced awareness, not weakness. He wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But for you, every encounter is that reaction. Each connection leaves an imprint, and this is where danger enters. You don't choose to feel these energies. They simply pass through you. That's why you might feel anxious for no reason or exhausted after social interactions." Jung referred to this as psychic contagion, the unconscious transmission of emotion from one mind to another. Most people have built-in filters that protect them. You, however, have what I call permeable psychic boundaries. You can pick up the atmosphere of a room, the hidden despair behind a smile, or the buried rage beneath polite conversation. This sensitivity makes you an emotional translator, but also an empathic sponge. You process what others refuse to feel. You may have noticed that after spending time with angry or fearful people, you leave carrying their emotion. That isn't imagination. It's the price of heightened empathy. Crowds drain you because you're subconsciously processing the psychic data of everyone around you. Jung's advice was clear: learn to recognize what's yours and what belongs to the collective. He called this psychological differentiation, maintaining your center while perceiving others clearly. Another hallmark of these individuals is what Jung named symbolic perception. While most minds grasp reality in literal terms, you interpret it through metaphor, pattern, and archetype. Symbols, dreams, synchronicities. These are your native language. Jung wrote, "The symbol is the primitive expression of the unconscious, and simultaneously, the highest intuition of consciousness." You perceive the world as layered, each event both factual and metaphorical. A conversation isn't just words. It's an energetic exchange revealing archetypal drama. A coincidence isn't random. It's communication from the deeper psyche. You read myths and feel your own story inside them. You understand instinctively that fairy tales and legends describe inner realities disguised as outer adventures. This symbolic intelligence allows you to intuit truths that others require decades to reason through. You recognize repeating patterns in relationships, politics, art, seeing not only what happens but why it happens. This, Jung believed, was the sign of an evolved psyche. Literal minds see events, symbolic minds see meaning. Yet this gift can be isolating. Because your consciousness functions at multiple layers, you may feel alien in conversations about surface realities. You speak in metaphors, others hear confusion. But Jung insisted that this form of awareness represents the future of human understanding. It's how the unconscious evolves into consciousness. Jung also observed that these individuals inevitably endure what he called the encounter with the unconscious. Periods of profound inner crisis that lead to expansion rather than collapse. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You've likely lived this: depression, loss, breakdowns that stripped away everything familiar. While others might crumble, you transmute pain into wisdom. Your descent becomes initiation. Jung referred to this as individuation, the journey toward wholeness that requires integrating both shadow and light. These breakdowns aren't punishment, they're catalysts. They force growth that comfort could never offer. Through suffering, the psyche burns away falseness until only truth remains. You could call these moments consciousness accelerators. Extreme experiences designed to awaken dormant aspects of the self. If your darkest moments became turning points, you've lived Jung's law. That pain is not the end, but the passage. He called it the cost of awareness. The price for developing beyond collective limits. The final pattern Jung identified might be the most significant of all. Despite feeling alien in this world, you sense an irresistible calling to help others awaken. He observed that differentiated individuals naturally evolve into agents of individuation, people who assist others in recognizing their authentic potential. This calling isn't career-driven, it's archetypal. You share insights, write, teach, or simply embody a higher vibration because your psyche compels it. You can't help it. You've become a consciousness catalyst. Your presence alone stirs growth in others. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But once you do, you want others to experience the same freedom. You become a guide without trying, a mirror reflecting what others could become if they dared to look within." Yet this calling introduces a new challenge: how to live authentically in a world built on conformity. Jung called this the tension of opposites, existing between individuality and society without losing either. He proposed the transcendent function, the ability to hold contradictions until they reconcile naturally. You participate in collective life, but you don't get lost in it. You wear masks when necessary, but never forget the face beneath them. This demands what I call the conscious adaptation. interacting with the world while remaining inwardly free. You learn to communicate deep truths in simple language, to speak to sleepers without waking their fear. Jung referred to this as the art of translation, expressing higher consciousness in forms the collective can receive. He called this the problem of the persona, the risk of mistaking your social mask for your soul. When you identify too deeply with roles, you forget the consciousness wearing them. When you reject every role entirely, you become isolated and ineffective. Jung's answer was balance. Use masks as tools, not identities. He wrote, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Your purpose is not to fit the world's form, but to find authenticity within its structures." This leads to what I call social translation, the art of expressing inner truth through outer language. You don't dilute your insight. You shape it so that it can be received. Through this skill, you build bridges instead of walls. Jung believed that those who master this integration become as mediators of consciousness, uniting what's above with what's below. He observed that differentiated individuals perform a vital role in humanity's psychological evolution, what might be called the consciousness pioneer function. While the majority preserve stability through imitation, these rare souls expand possibility through perception. They ask the questions that dismantle illusions. They embody what's next for the human mind. Jung recognized that these pioneers never choose their mission. They are chosen by it. You didn't decide to see what others miss. Your awareness developed as a response to collective need. He suggested that such individuals emerge when humanity must evolve beyond its current limitations. You appear at moments of transition, souls tuned to tomorrow, born into yesterday. This explains why you often feel misplaced in time or culture. Your consciousness points forward, while the world still looks backward. You're built for what's coming, not what is. And that's why your existence feels both necessary and heavy. You hold visions that others aren't ready to see. Jung described this condition as evolutionary tension, the strain of carrying a consciousness ahead of its era. It's uncomfortable, but essential. Without pioneers, the species would stagnate. You are evidence that humanity can stretch beyond its current mind. The alienation you feel is the friction of progress. He also explored how this tension manifests through synchronistic guidance, meaningful coincidences that direct your path. When you align with your deeper purpose, the outer world responds with strange precision. You meet the right teacher, stumble on the right text, or experience the exact loss needed to accelerate growth. The unconscious guides through symbols rather than logic. You're not imagining the pattern, you're participating in it. One of the most painful aspects of this journey is what I call the relationship paradox. You long for connection, yet few can meet you at the depth you inhabit. Jung recognized this as inevitable. The most terrifying thing, he wrote, is to accept oneself completely. Most have not done that work, which means they cannot recognize someone who has. You might feel unseen even in love. You crave the kind of intimacy where growth replaces comfort, where truth matters more than approval. But such relationships are rare because they demand consciousness from both sides. The solution isn't withdrawal, but selective intimacy. Sharing your inner world only with those capable of honoring it. Compassion for all, access for few. Jung also noted that differentiated souls carry what I call the creative imperative. It's not about talent, it's about necessity. You are compelled to express the inner world outward, through writing, art, guidance, or quiet acts of meaning. He wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. Your creativity isn't luxury, it's survival. It's how your consciousness breathes. Even if no one sees or understands your work, you must create. It's how you metabolize experience. Your art, your ideas, your teaching, these are not hobbies, but extensions of individuation. Through them, you give shape to the invisible, form to the formless. Jung saw this impulse as sacred, the psyche's way of translating spirit into matter. Finally, he discovered that these individuals possess what could be called natural spiritual awareness. It isn't religion, it's direct communion with existence. You sense intelligence in coincidence, presence in silence, order inside apparent chaos. Jung called this the religious function of the psyche, the human capacity to experience the numinous directly. You might feel both skeptical of dogma and certain of the sacred. You don't need doctrines to prove meaning. You live within it. Rigid belief feels too small, yet materialism feels blind. You dwell in the paradox between the measurable and the mysterious, comfortable in neither, loyal to truth in both. Jung would remind you that this awareness isn't arrogance, it's evolution. He wrote that humanity's task is to make the unconscious conscious. You are doing precisely that, carrying pieces of collective darkness into light through your own awareness. Your sense of not belonging, then, is not pathology. It is evidence of psychological growth beyond current collective capacity. You are not defective. You are developing. You are not exiled. You are pioneering. Integration, not imitation, is the goal. To honor your nature while finding ways to serve a world still half asleep. Differentiated consciousness is both privilege and responsibility. You see what others cannot, feel what others repress, and perceive patterns that frighten ordinary minds. This grants you the ability to act as a bridge between ignorance and understanding, shadow and light. Jung's message was unwavering. The outsider's path is humanity's path forward. Every revolution in human thought began with a mind that didn't belong. Your difference isn't your downfall. It's your directive. Stop striving to fit this world as it is. Start guiding it toward what it could become. You feel unfulfilled by success because your compass points toward meaning, not achievement. You read emotions others hide, think in symbols they can't interpret, and grow through darkness that would break most. You're here to help others awaken, not by preaching but by being. By walking through life as living evidence that consciousness can expand beyond fear. You are what Jung called an agent of individuation. A living bridge between the unconscious and the fully human. Your awareness acts as a catalyst in others, silently awakening what sleeps. Jung might tell you this: the world you don't fit into exists precisely because you were born to help rebuild it. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's evolutionary design. Your solitude is not isolation, it's incubation. Your resistance is not rebellion, it's alignment with truth. He believed that humanity evolves through individuals, not masses. Each awakened mind becomes a seed for collective transformation. The discomfort you feel is the tension of the future pulling you forward while the present begs you to stay behind. You're stretched between worlds, but that stretch is what allows new consciousness to enter. Your existence itself proves that growth is possible. So the question isn't how to belong to this world, but how to remain yourself while helping it awaken. That is your task, to live authentically, to create from clarity, to love without losing yourself, to hold both solitude and connection, both shadow and light, both the finite and the infinite, and still walk with grace. You are part of what Jung saw as the next chapter in human evolution, the emergence of psychological sovereignty. Not cold detachment, but radiant awareness. Not superiority, but responsibility. For to see deeply is to serve deeply. So when you feel like a stranger in your own time, remember, the pioneers always arrive first. They wander strange lands so others may one day call them home. You're not meant for this world as it is. You're here to help it become something more conscious, more human, more whole. As Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when you embody that truth, you do more than live. You evolve life itself. If these signs resonate, it's not coincidence, it's recognition. You've heard the same silent call that echoes through every awakened soul. Follow it, protect your clarity, trust your solitude, and remember, your journey of not belonging is really the story of becoming. If you wish to understand how those who carry this kind of rare sensitivity can guard their light from manipulation, watch the next exploration. Final warning to empaths. They're feeding on your light, where we uncover Jung's insights on how sensitive souls defend their energy while fulfilling their higher purpose. Your awareness is not an accident. It's humanity evolving through you. Thank you for walking this path of depth and light. Stay awake, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next video. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to breathe and remember that awareness grows when it's shared. Subscribe so you don't lose your way when the next reflection arrives. Leave a like. It helps this message reach others who need to hear it but don't yet know why. And share your thoughts below, because every comment here becomes a spark. One awakened mind helping another remember. Together, we move beyond the dark.